because I tell you, Rick Dhaliwal sent out a tweet today with his personal blog that he's got going on there, the Dhali blog. Big competition for Canucks Army. Quad's going to try and buy him up next year. So he dropped a ton of news from the weekend. I'm just going to ring off things. If you want to comment, go ahead. If not, I'm just going to move on to the next one, okay? So this is all from Rick Dhaliwal. You can find it on Twitter. You know where he is, Dhaliwal Sports. He sent out a tweet with this. There are some things that I noted I just want to get to. Let's start with the Tanner Pearson one. This is from Rick Dhaliwal of Donnie and Dhali, of course. Said the latest on Pearson is that he's had 6 to 7 surgeries so far, and that the hope is he is done with the surgeries. Now, the rehab is still a long road ahead for Pearson. Still too early to know if he will play next season. Wow. And then I did see Frank Saravalli added a little bit to this as well. Did you see that? Just that, I mean, it's going to be difficult for the Canucks. I mean, this could be, like, the surgeries I don't think are just because of the injury. Like, it might have been how some of this was handled. I think we heard about that from Quinn Hughes earlier in the season. They had a press conference in the middle of the year to address it. I mean, 6 to 7 surgeries, man. Something probably has not gone perfect throughout the timeline there. You don't have 6 to 7 surgeries on, what is it, a wrist? It's a hand, right? Or a wrist?
Hand.
Yeah, so it's been, geez, man. I feel for the guy because he probably just wants to play hockey. And I think right now, still the idea of his future is that we don't know what he is going to be at the NHL. It sounded like the way that Rick Dhaliwal tweeted about it was that the hope is now done with surgeries. So you hope that there's no more of these.
Elliot Friedman added to it as well through Dhaliwal. I think he was on Donnie and Dhali today. Elliot Friedman on Tanner Pearson's injury. If he cannot play again, I expect a grievance to be filed. It is uncertain if he will play again. The Canucks will have to defend themselves if he is prevented from another contract. Again, that from Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman through Rick Dhaliwal on Donnie and Dhali. On Check, we should say, Check TV as well. So just a ton of updates. And obviously, you're hoping for the best for Tanner Pearson. Obviously, you would like to see him come back next year. Like, he's still got a contract, right? It's not just, he's a UFA. Canucks can be done with him or whatever. He's still under contract. He's on LTIR right now. But we'll see. We'll see what kind of happens. Hopefully he actually is done with the surgeries, and I think we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. See some comments into the chat as well, though. Some interesting ones. We won't read those ones, but we'll get to the next topic here. No talks yet between UFA defenseman Kyle Burroughs as well as Colin Delia. No surprise there with Delia. I don't know what they're going to do with this guy moving forward. I think if he wants to come on and potentially be in the AHL at some point next season, like, that's fine. He might sign to stay here because I think that at least there's the opportunity for him to play in the NHL. Like, I think he could find that somewhere else, but maybe he likes this chance better here. As for Kyle Burroughs, a little surprised that no talks have occurred yet between the two sides. I think Burroughs wants to be a Canuck. I think that's pretty clear, not necessarily even just from the way he plays, the way he talks about being an NHLer. Like, I think he really appreciates being a Vancouver Canuck, and even if he's not in the lineup every night, I really like this guy for the roster. I hope they can figure out something soon with Kyle Burroughs. Just, hey, honestly, in the years of watching this team, I can't think of a better 7-8 defenseman than Kyle Burroughs. I love what he does for this team, and I see it in practice every day. I see it in the locker room. I see it when he comes into the lineup to play. I see it when somebody touches Elias Pettersson. Like, to me, he's the perfect 7-8 guy for this Vancouver Canucks team. I hope they can sign him for 2-3 years to play in that role at something like league minimum, because he just wants to be in the NHL. Right? He doesn't want to be an AHLer. And I think Vancouver has a spot for him. I like the way he plays. I hope they can get something done soon with Burroughs.
And he wants to be a Canuck, right? Like, he was asked about it. He said, I've made it clear. He's always been steadfast in his desire to be a Canuck, and he's always been very open about what this organization means to him. Growing up in the Lower Mainland, being a fan of the team. Guy wants to stay in Vancouver. Those are the kind of guys that you would like to keep around. Okay, what's our next Dhali-Bomb? How many do we have?
Well, with Burroughs, do you think, I think it has to be, right? Like, Kyle Burroughs had to have had an Alex Burroughs jersey, right? Like, you had to. He would have been like, how old is Kyle Burroughs? Let me look this up. He's younger than me. So he would have been like in high
26,
school.
26, I think.
26? Yeah. So he's born 2 years later. He's 27 right now. So he would have been like grade 10 when they were on the Stanley Cup run. He obviously had a Burroughs jersey. There's no chance in the world he didn't have a Burroughs jersey, or at least a jersey. We all had a jersey. What was your jersey? Did you have one?
Luongo.
I had lots of baseball. Luongo. I had lots of baseball ones. I had like an A-Rod jersey. Terrell Owens jersey back in the day. All right. Next one from Dhaliwal. Been told Quinn Hughes will not play for USA at the upcoming World Championships. Also told it's unlikely JT Miller will play. I don't think there's much of a surprise there.
No,
Nothing
none. Nils Amon might be going to Team Sweden. That's the other one.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That'd be fun to watch. And then a couple other ones. We've talked about this for a lot on the show. The Canucks need to make a decision on Connor Lockhart, who's not a center. He's a winger, but he was a 6th-round pick in 2019. Needs to be signed by June 1st, or he goes back into the NHL draft. Yep, they got to make a decision there. Here's the thing with Lockhart that I'll add to that. So they swept their opening series in the OHL, so good for them. They're off to the Eastern Conference semifinals. So is Josh Bloom, the other Canucks prospect in the OHL. They could end up playing each other in the Eastern Conference semifinals if Hamilton ends up beating Barrie. If Barrie ends up winning against Hamilton, and I actually should have checked this last night. They might have played last night. Anyways, if Hamilton beats Barrie in the series, then they play each other. If Barrie wins, then they play opposite, but both still in the semifinals. So they could end up playing each other in the Eastern Conference finals of the OHL, which would be a ton of fun. And then the final thing from Dhaliwal, Jacob Truscott broke his thumb and did not play the last 2 months of the season. We've talked about that a lot on the show. Earlier in the year, I was told that Truscott was leaning towards pro. I think that injury set him back, not going to go pro, didn't get to play in the Final Four or the NCAA championship, none of that. So he's going to go back. I would suspect that Jacob Truscott is the captain of Michigan next year, which I think is a great thing for him moving forward. You hope that he can have a similar thing to, improving his all-around game and kind of learning to be a captain, similar to Aiden McDonough did this past season. I expect Jacob Truscott to be the captain of Michigan, which is a big deal. Okay, that's a big deal. Be captain of Michigan. I think that's what he'll do next season when he goes back for another year. That's all we got from Dhali there.
All right. Our thanks again to our friend Rick Dhaliwal, who did make an appearance on the show, but in a way did make an appearance on the show. We got to get him back on the show soon.
No, he's not. He doesn't want to come on the show anymore. He takes his walk after the show, and that's why he's not showing up here. He does his show. He gets home lots of time. We've done it with Donnie before here on the show. Donnie's been able to make it, or Ricky's out there walking, takes his 40-second walk, and he can't make any time for us. So that's what's holding us up.